Cleaner's daughter warned, "Don't answer the phone today," until she received a call in Russian. Rebecca Johnson was about to sign the most important contract of her career when the cleaner's daughter burst breathlessly into her office. The young girl clutched her trembling hands and whispered words that seemed urgent but made no sense at all. That's when the girl squeezed her hands tighter and pleaded with desperation in her voice, "Please, Mrs. Johnson, don't answer the phone today, no matter who calls." Rebecca stopped organizing the documents and stared at the girl in shock. Not answer the phone. She was a successful businesswoman, owner of one of New York City's largest HR consulting firms. Her phone rang dozens of times a day. "Ashley, what are you talking about?" she asked, trying to understand what was happening. "My mother. She overheard a strange conversation in the elevator yesterday. Someone talking about settling old scores with you," the girl blurted out, as if the words couldn't escape fast enough. A chill ran down Rebecca's spine. Mrs. Jenkins, the building's cleaner, had always been a discreet and trustworthy woman. In 15 years working there, she had never engaged in gossip or caused trouble. If she had sent her daughter up 20 floors to deliver this message, something very serious was going on. "What kind of conversation?" Rebecca pressed, setting the papers aside. "I don't know exactly. My mother didn't want to say much. She just said she recognized a voice from the past." Ashley lowered her head, as if carrying a weight heavier than her 18 years could bear. Rebecca tried to keep working, but the girl's words echoed in her mind. Settling old scores. What scores? She had always been fair in her business dealings, never left debts unpaid or made enemies. Her life was an open book, built on hard work and honesty. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed an international number she didn't recognize. She hesitated for a few seconds, remembering Ashley's warning, and decided not to answer. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was a private number. Rebecca stared at it as if it were a snake ready to strike. Something inside her screamed not to pick up, but her practical nature won out. She was a businesswoman. She couldn't just ignore calls. She answered. A voice on the other end began speaking in a language she couldn't place. The words sounded strangely familiar, like a song from childhood she couldn't quite remember. The person spoke urgently, almost desperately. "Hello, who is this?" Rebecca asked in English. The voice continued in the unfamiliar language for a few more seconds before the call dropped. Rebecca stood frozen, the phone still in her hand. That voice. There was something in it that tugged at a deep corner of her memory. She couldn't understand the words, but the tone, the cadence, stirred echoes of a distant past. She decided to go down to the lobby to speak with Mrs. Jenkins. She needed to understand what was happening. But when she reached the ground floor, the doorman told her the cleaner hadn't come to work. "It's the first time in 15 years she hasn't shown up, Mrs. Johnson," said Frank, the doorman. "Her daughter stopped by earlier and said her mother wasn't feeling well." Rebecca's stomach twisted. Mrs. Jenkins was a strong woman. She rarely got sick. And now, of all days, the very day she had sent that strange warning through her daughter, she didn't come to work. She went back up to the office but couldn't concentrate. Every time the phone rang, she jumped. Every noise in the hallway made her glance worriedly at the door. She had never felt this way in her own workplace before. At the end of the day, as she was putting away the documents, Ashley appeared again. The young woman looked even more nervous than she had that morning. "Mrs. Jenkins, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Ashley, come in, sit down," Rebecca said, pointing to one of the chairs in front of her desk. "It's about my mother. She's been terrified since yesterday. She said she saw a woman in the building, someone from her past, someone she never expected to see again." "What woman?" "I don't know, she won't say. She just keeps repeating that some secrets from the past should stay buried." Ashley fidgeted nervously with her hands as she spoke. Rebecca leaned forward, hanging on every word. There was a connection between the warning about the phone and this mysterious woman. She was sure of it. "Ashley, did your mother say anything about me? About why I shouldn't answer the phone?" The young woman hesitated before answering. She said you have the right to know the truth, but that some truths can hurt more than lies. Those words echoed in Rebecca's mind the whole way home. What truth? What lies? Her life had always been transparent. She knew her own story. There were no mysteries. Or were there? Alone in her apartment, Rebecca began sifting through old memories. Her mother had arrived from the former Soviet Union when she was young, finding work as a maid for a wealthy family in New York City. She had always been a reserved woman, rarely speaking about the past. Rebecca had grown up knowing only the basics about her origins. The phone rang again, interrupting her thoughts. An international number, different from before. This time she answered immediately. The same voice, speaking the same unfamiliar language. But now Rebecca listened more carefully. There was something familiar in those sounds, like words she once knew but had forgotten. And then the person on the other end said a word that froze her blood. Becky. It was a nickname only one person had ever called her in childhood. Her mother, in moments of tenderness, when she was cooking or brushing her hair. Becky. Little Rebecca. In Russian. The call dropped again, leaving Rebecca in a panic. How could anyone know that nickname? Her mother had passed away 10 years ago, taking all the secrets of her past life with her. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next day, Rebecca arrived at the office early but couldn't focus on work. Every minute she glanced at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. At the same time, she dreaded it. Around 10 in the morning, Mrs. Jenkins finally appeared. Rebecca went down immediately to speak with her. Mrs. Jenkins, I need to talk to you. The building superintendent, a black woman in her mid-60s, avoided Rebecca's gaze. Her hands trembled slightly as she organized the cleaning supplies. Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. Are you all right? No, I'm not all right. Your daughter gave me a message yesterday about not answering the phone. I need to know what's going on. Mrs. Jenkins stopped what she was doing and looked around, making sure they were alone. Mrs. Johnson, there are some things in life that are better left alone. But what things? I don't understand any of this, Rebecca said, frustration rising in her voice. Did you get any strange calls yesterday? I did. Someone speaking Russian, calling me by a nickname only my mother ever used. Mrs. Jenkins's face visibly paled. Russian? Yes. Mrs. Jenkins, do you know anything about this? The caretaker took a deep breath before answering. I've known your mother for a long time, Rebecca, much longer than you think. What do you mean? We were friends in our youth here in New York City. She told me some things about her past, things she asked me never to reveal. Rebecca felt the ground grow unsteady beneath her feet. What things? Your mother didn't come here alone from abroad, Rebecca. She had family there. Family who stayed behind. What family? She always said she had no one left. She said that to protect you. And to protect herself, too. Mrs. Jenkins glanced around nervously again. Protect from what? From the pain. Your mother suffered greatly leaving her family behind. It was easier to say she had no one than to carry that grief every day. Rebecca leaned against the wall. All her certainties about her own story began to crumble. And that woman you saw in the building? She's someone from your mother's past. Someone who's been looking for you for a long time. Looking for me? Why? Mrs. Jenkins hesitated for a long moment before answering. Because she's family, Rebecca. Blood family. The words echoed through the empty hallway like thunder. Rebecca's legs trembled. Family? What family? I promised your mother I'd keep this secret. But now that she's gone and this person has found you, maybe it's time you knew the truth. What truth, Mrs. Jenkins? Please tell me everything. The caretaker looked deeply into Rebecca's eyes before continuing. Your mother had a sister, a twin sister. Rebecca's world stopped spinning. A twin sister? That's impossible. My mother always said, your mother always told you what she thought was best for you to hear. But the truth is, they were separated when they left their homeland. Each took a different path to reach the United States. Your mother arrived first, in New York City. Her sister took longer, passing through other countries before making it here. And they never found each other again? They tried for years. But New York is a big city, and back then there was no internet, no cell phones, none of today's conveniences. They lost track of each other. Rebecca was still processing everything when Mrs. Jenkins went on. Your aunt never gave up searching. When she finally located your mother, it was too late. She was already gone. So that woman is your aunt, Rebecca. Your aunt who's been trying to speak with you for months. She comes by the building sometimes, asks about you, leaves messages. And why didn't you ever tell me? Because I promised your mother I'd keep the secret. She was afraid the truth would bring more pain than joy. Your mother carried immense guilt for leaving her sister behind. Rebecca braced herself against the wall to keep from falling. Her entire life, her whole personal history, was being rewritten in that moment. Those calls in Russian, they must be from her. Your aunt doesn't speak English very well yet. She lives in a Russian community here in New York, works at an Orthodox church in Astoria. She's here? In New York? Yes. And she's very ill, Rebecca. That's why it's urgent. That's why she's trying so hard to reach you. The words hit Rebecca like a punch to the gut. Ill? Cancer. She's been in treatment for months. That's why she's in such a hurry to find you. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. An aunt she never knew existed was out there, sick, desperately trying to make contact. Mrs. Jenkins, how can I find her? She left an address and a phone number with me. But she asked me only to give it to you if you truly wanted to know the truth. I do. I really do. The caretaker went to her closet and pulled out a yellowed piece of paper. It's here, Mrs. Jenkins, St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in Astoria. She works there as a volunteer. Rebecca took the paper with trembling hands. Finally, she had a concrete lead about this unknown part of her past. Mrs. Jenkins, why did you change your mind? Why tell me now? Because yesterday, when I saw her here in the building again, I realized how frail she looked, and I thought some promises are meant to be broken if they can save lives. Save lives? Your aunt was giving up, Rebecca. She said if she couldn't speak to you this time, she'd return to Russia to die near the place where she was born. This revelation made Rebecca decide instantly, I'm going there now. Are you sure? Sometimes knowing the truth can be harder than living without it. I'm sure. I've lived too long not knowing. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The trip to Astoria felt like an eternity. Rebecca drove through the streets of New York City, thinking of all the conversations she'd had with her mother over the years. How many times had her mother cried without explanation? How many times had she spoken Russian when she was upset? How many times had she gazed out the window with an inexplicable sadness in her eyes? Now, it was all starting to make sense. St. Nicholas Orthodox Church was an old, imposing building with architectural features reminiscent of Eastern Europe. Rebecca parked across the street and watched for a few minutes, gathering the courage to go inside. When she finally crossed the street and pushed open the heavy wooden door, she was met by the scent of incense and the sound of Russian prayers. A few elderly people were scattered across the pews, praying quietly. She approached a woman arranging flowers at the altar. Excuse me, I'm looking for someone who volunteers here. A woman who came from Russia a few years ago. You must mean Natalie, the woman replied in English mixed with a foreign accent. She's in the back hall preparing food for those in need. Rebecca followed the directions and entered a large hall where several women were preparing meals. At the far end of the room, a gray-haired woman stood with her back to the door, chopping vegetables. When the woman turned around, Rebecca felt as if she was seeing a ghost. She looked exactly like her mother. The same face, the same eyes, the same mannerisms, just a little older and visibly more tired. The woman also froze when she saw Rebecca. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. Becky, she whispered, her voice breaking. Rebecca couldn't answer. She was completely in shock. The woman approached slowly, as if afraid Rebecca might vanish at any moment. You're my sister's daughter, aren't you? You're Elizabeth's child." It was the first time Rebecca had heard her mother's real name in Russian. Elizabeth. She had always gone by Liz in the United States. You're my aunt?" "I'm Natalie. I'm your mother's twin sister." The woman gently held Rebecca's hands. "I've searched for you for so long. Why did my mother never tell me about you?" Natalie took a deep breath before answering. "Because she felt guilty. When we left Russia, we were very young. We had a plan to meet in New York City, but things didn't go as we'd hoped." "What happened?" "I got lost along the way. I spent years in Canada before finally making it to the US. By the time I reached New York City, your mother had already built a new life. She thought I'd given up, that I'd stayed in Canada forever." Rebecca Johnson began to grasp the magnitude of the family tragedy that had unfolded without her knowledge. "And you never saw each other again?" "We tried for years, but New York City was too big for two poor women to find each other. We had no resources, no connections. Each of us thought the other had given up." "When did you find out where she was?" Natalie lowered her head, visibly emotional. "I found out after she had already passed. A friend from church told me about a Russian woman who had worked for a wealthy family. When I looked into it, I discovered it was my sister. But it was already too late." "And how did you find me?" "I asked everyone who knew your mother. I found out where you worked, where you lived, but I didn't know how to reach you. I was afraid to show up out of nowhere and scare you." "That's why the calls." "Yes. I tried calling many times, but you never answered unknown numbers, and I didn't speak English well enough to leave messages." Rebecca was trying to process all this when she noticed Natalie looked physically fragile. "Mrs. Jenkins told me you're sick." Natalie nodded sadly. "Lung cancer. The doctors say I have a few months left." "A few months?" Rebecca felt her world collapsing again. "That's why I was so desperate to find you. You're the only family I have left in the world, Becky. The only connection I have to my sister." Rebecca hugged Natalie without a second thought. It was like hugging her own mother again. "Aunt Natalie, you won't die alone. I won't let that happen." You call me aunt?" "Of course. You're my aunt. Your family." Natalie cried like a child in Rebecca's arms. "Your mother would be so proud of you. She always wrote in her letters that she had a wonderful daughter." "Letters? What letters?" "Oh yes, we wrote letters to each other for years, but we could never deliver them. I have all the letters I wrote to her, and she left some for you." "My mother left letters for me." "Yes, she did. They're all at my house. Letters she wrote to you over the years explaining about our family, our history." Rebecca could hardly believe it. Her mother had left explanations for everything, but she never knew. "Why did she never give me these letters?" "Because she was afraid you'd be angry she hid the truth. She asked me to give them to you only if you ever truly wanted to know about our family. I want to see those letters. I want to know everything." "Then let's go to my house. I have so much to show you." On the way to Natalie's house, on a small street near the church, Rebecca learned more about her family's history than she had in her entire life. Natalie told her about their childhood in Russia, their decision to leave the country, their dreams of reuniting in the United States. She spoke of years of searching, of hope that never completely died. Natalie's house was simple, but filled with objects that told the story of a life. Old photos, yellowed documents, letters in Russian, religious icons. "Sit here, Becky. I'll get the letters." Natalie disappeared into the bedroom and returned with an old wooden box. "These are the letters your mother wrote for you, and these are the ones I wrote to her all these years." Rebecca took one of the letters with trembling hands. It was written in English, in her mother's careful handwriting. "My dear Rebecca," the first letter said, "if you're reading this, it means Natalie found you. I'm sorry for hiding my sister's existence from you. It wasn't from lack of love, but from too much of it. I didn't want you to carry the same pain I carried all these years." Rebecca continued reading, discovering details about her mother's life she had never imagined. The pain of separation, the guilt for leaving her sister behind, the hope of one day reuniting. "Your mother wrote you a letter every birthday," said Natalie. "Here are 35 letters, one for each year of your life since she arrived in the United States. She wrote letters to me for 35 years. She did, and in the last letters, she asked me to take care of you if it ever became possible. Rebecca picked up one of the last letters, written shortly before her mother passed. Rebecca, my dear daughter, the letter read, if anything happens to me and you're reading this, know that Natalie is the only family you have in this world. She is good, she is honest, and she will love you as I love you. I ask that you take care of each other. I ask that you not judge the choices I made. And I ask that you give Natalie the love I couldn't give all these years we were apart. Rebecca couldn't stop crying. Her entire life was being rewritten in that moment. Aunt Natalie, did my mother know you were alive? In her final years, yes. We managed to exchange a few letters through mutual friends, but she was very ill, and I was still trying to get the documents to come legally to the United States. Did she know you were looking for me? She did, and she was torn between wanting us to meet and fearing it would cause more pain. Why pain? Because she knew she was leaving, and she was afraid you'd lose two people at once. First meeting me, then losing her. Rebecca finally understood the weight her mother had carried all those years. She suffered a lot because of this, didn't she? She did, but she was also happy. She always wrote in her letters how proud she was of the strong, independent woman you became. I have so many questions, and I have all the answers, dear. We have time to talk about everything. But you said that I only have a few months left. Yes, it's true, but now that I've found you, those months will mean so much more. Rebecca made a decision right then. Aunt Natalie, you won't spend these months alone. I want you to come live with me. I can't accept that, dear. You have your life, your work. You're my family. You're my only connection to my mother, to our history. Please accept. Natalie looked deeply into Rebecca's eyes. Are you sure? Absolutely. We have so much lost time to make up for. In the following days, Rebecca helped Natalie move into her apartment. It was an emotional and revealing process. Every item Natalie brought told a piece of their family's story. There were photos of the sisters' childhood in Russia, showing two identical girls playing in the snow. There were documents from their journey to the United States. There were letters, so many letters, recounting years of longing and hope. Look at this, Becky, said Natalie, showing an old photo. This is your mother the day we left Russia. See how young and hopeful she was. Rebecca had never seen her mother so young. In the photo, she smiled, hugging her sister, her eyes full of dreams. Were you two very close? We were inseparable. We did everything together. That's why the separation was so painful for both of us. How exactly did you get separated? Natalie took a deep breath before telling the full story. When we left Russia, the plan was to travel together to the United States. But along the way, I got sick. Very sick. Your mother wanted to stay with me, but I insisted she continue the journey. I told her I'd get better and meet her later. And what happened? I was hospitalized for months in Canada. When I recovered, I had no money left to continue the trip. I had to work for years to save up the necessary money. And my mother didn't know about this? We had no way to communicate. She left for the United States thinking I'd follow soon after. When I never showed up, she must have assumed I'd given up. What a sad story. But now we have a chance to write a happy ending, don't we? Rebecca agreed, determined to cherish every moment with her newly discovered aunt. In the weeks that followed, Rebecca's life changed completely. She learned to cook traditional Russian dishes her mother used to make. She picked up a few words in Russian. She uncovered family traditions that had been lost. Natalie, in turn, quickly settled into Rebecca's life. She sometimes accompanied her to the office, met her friends and co-workers, and joined in on everyday decisions. You know, Becky, your mother would be so proud to see the strong, independent woman you've become. Sometimes I wonder if she'd have approved of my choices. I never married, never had children. She would have approved of anything that made you happy. She just wanted you to be free to live your own life. I feel like I've wasted so much time not knowing our history. We didn't waste time, dear. We found each other at the right moment. If we'd met earlier, maybe I wouldn't have been able to tell you everything I know about your mother. One afternoon, as they sorted through old photos, Natalie brought out a small box Rebecca hadn't seen before. "What's this?" "It's a gift your mother left for you. She asked me to give it to you when the time was right." Rebecca carefully opened the box. Inside was an antique necklace, clearly made of two halves that fit together perfectly. "It's a broken heart," Natalie explained. "When we were children, our grandmother gave us this necklace. Each of us kept one half. It was our symbol that we'd always be united no matter what. And my mother held on to this half her whole life. She did, and she always said she'd give it to you one day, so you'd know you were part of this bond too." Rebecca picked up the necklace and saw it truly looked incomplete. "And your half?" Natalie smiled and pulled an identical necklace from under her blouse. "It's right here with me. I never took it off." The two women brought the necklaces together, and they fit perfectly, forming a whole heart. "Now you're officially part of our family, Becky," Natalie said, fastening the necklace around Rebecca's neck. It was a moment of overwhelming emotion. Rebecca finally felt she knew her own story, that she was part of something greater than herself. "Aunt Natalie, can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "Do you regret coming to the United States, leaving your life in Russia behind?" Natalie thought for a moment before answering. "I regret nothing, Becky. Everything I went through, all the hardships, led me to you. And now I know it was worth it. Even knowing my time is limited, yes, these last few months with you have been worth a lifetime." Rebecca hugged her aunt tightly, promising herself she'd make every day count. Natalie's treatment was being done at a hospital near Rebecca's apartment. Every week, they went together to appointments and chemotherapy sessions. Rebecca insisted on being there personally. "You don't have to do this, dear," Natalie would say. "I know you have your work, your commitments." "My work can wait. You're more important. Your mother raised a very special daughter. She learned from her family. You two were such strong women." During one of the appointments, the doctor called Rebecca aside to talk. "How has it been for you, caring for your aunt?" "It's been an incredible experience. I discovered I have a family I never knew. It's important for you to know that Mrs. Natalie's condition is worsening. The treatment is helping, but the disease is advanced." "How much time?" "It's hard to say. Could be a few months, could be less. It depends on how she responds to treatment." Rebecca felt her chest tighten, but she was determined to make the most of every moment. That night, she talked to Natalie about the appointment. "The doctor said you need more care. I'm going to hire a nurse to stay here during the day." "That's not necessary, dear." "Yes, it is. I want to make sure you're well taken care of when I'm not here. You already do more for me than I ever expected. I'm doing what my mother would have done if she were here." "Your mother would be so proud of you, Becky." In the following months, Rebecca and Natalie developed a special routine. In the mornings, they had coffee together while Natalie shared childhood stories about Elizabeth. In the afternoons, Rebecca worked while Natalie rested or received visits from friends at church. In the evenings, they cooked together, always making traditional Russian recipes that connected Rebecca to her roots. "Teach me how to make the borscht my mother used to make," Rebecca asked one afternoon. "Of course, dear. But first, let me tell you the story behind this recipe. It's been passed down through generations in our family." Natalie told Rebecca about her great-grandmother, who had created the recipe during a harsh winter in Russia. She spoke of how the recipe had traveled across time and space, finding its way to them in the United States. "Now you can pass this recipe on to your daughters someday," Natalie said. "I've never had children, Auntie." "It doesn't have to be a daughter by blood, dear. It could be a niece, a goddaughter, a special friend. What matters is keeping the tradition alive." Rebecca thought about that. For the first time in years, she began considering the possibility of building a family, even if not in the traditional way. One afternoon, Ashley, Mrs. Jenkins's daughter, showed up at Rebecca's apartment. "Mrs. Johnson, my mother asked me to come thank you." "Thank me for what, Ashley?" "For giving the truth a chance to come out. My mother says she carried this secret for years and feels relieved she doesn't have to hide anything anymore." "Your mother did the right thing. If she hadn't told me about the phone, I never would have found my aunt." "Can I meet her?" "Of course. Aunt Natalie, this is Ashley, the girl I told you about." Natalie welcomed Ashley warmly as if she were a granddaughter. "You're the brave girl who helped our family reunite." I just did what my mother asked, and you did it beautifully. Sometimes younger people see solutions adults can't. Ashley was enchanted by Natalie's stories about Russia. The young girl was studying languages in school and was fascinated hearing Russian spoken. "Mrs. Natalie, could you teach me a few words in Russian?" "Of course, dear, it would be my pleasure." From that day on, Ashley began visiting the apartment regularly. Natalie taught her Russian, while Ashley helped with small household tasks. "You know, Becky, this girl reminds me of you when you were young," Natalie remarked. "How so? You didn't know me when I was young." "But your mother wrote to me about you. She described a curious, intelligent girl, always willing to help others. Ashley really is special. And she could be like a granddaughter to us, don't you think?" Rebecca smiled. Natalie was building an extended family, connecting people who had once been just acquaintances. One day, Natalie woke up weaker than usual. Rebecca immediately took her to the hospital. "Mrs. Johnson, we need to talk," the doctor said after the tests. "Your aunt's condition has worsened significantly. How much time does she have?" "A few weeks, maybe less." Rebecca felt the world crumble around her. "Even though I knew this moment would come, I wasn't prepared." "Does she know?" "We talked to her. She'd like to spend her final days at home if possible. Of course, we'll do whatever's necessary." Back at the apartment, Natalie was calm but visibly frailer. "Becky, we need to talk about some important things." "I don't want to talk about this now, Auntie." "But we must, dear. There are things I want to settle while I still have strength." Natalie had prepared a list of all her belongings and how she wanted them distributed. Most items, including all the letters and photos, would go to Rebecca. "But there's something special I want to give to Ashley," Natalie said. "To Ashley?" "Yes, the Russian-English dictionary I brought from Russia. She's been so interested in the language. I think it would help her. I'm sure she'll be honored. And one more thing. I want you to keep going to church, at least sometimes. The people there became my family these past years. They'd love to get to know you better." "I promise, Auntie. And I want you to be happy, Becky. Your mother and I always dreamed of seeing you fulfill your dreams. My dreams changed since I met you. Now I understand family matters more than I thought. Family isn't just blood, dear. It's made of people we choose to love." During Natalie's final weeks, the apartment became a gathering place. Mrs. Jenkins visited regularly, bringing Ashley. Church friends came too, creating an atmosphere of warmth and care. "Look what we've built," Natalie said one afternoon, watching Rebecca, Ashley, and Mrs. Jenkins talking in the living room. "A real family. We have, Auntie, a family we chose. Your mother would be so happy. She is happy wherever she is. I'm sure of that." In her last week, Natalie called Rebecca for a final talk. "Becky, I want to give you one last thing." "What is it, Auntie?" "A letter I wrote you, but don't open it until I'm gone, okay?" "Auntie." "Promise." "I promise. And I want you to know these months with you were the happiest of my life. Finding you gave meaning to everything I went through." "For me too, Auntie. Thank you for never giving up on searching for me." "I never would. We're family, remember?" Natalie passed on a Sunday morning, peacefully in her sleep. Rebecca held her hand. The funeral was at St. Nicholas Orthodox Church, attended by everyone who'd become family those months. Rebecca was amazed by how many lives Natalie had touched with her kindness. "Your aunt was a very special person," the priest said during the service. "She brought light to many lives, especially these last months." After the funeral, Rebecca finally opened Natalie's letter. "My dear Becky," it read, "if you're reading this, my journey has ended. Don't be sad for me. These last months with you were worth a lifetime. You gave me the greatest gift, a true family. Now I want you to live fully. Marry if you wish, have children if you wish, travel if you wish. But always remember you're not alone. You have a family who loves you even if not by blood. Care for Ashley as your own daughter. Care for Mrs. Jenkins as your mother. And know your mother and I will always watch over you, wherever we are. With all my love, Aunt Natalie." Rebecca wept reading the letter, but they were tears of gratitude, not sorrow. In the following months, she followed Natalie's advice. She began attending church regularly, forming deep friendships within the Russian community. She helped Ashley enroll in a more advanced Russian course, and the girl became like a daughter to her. Mrs. Jenkins retired and started having lunch with Rebecca every Sunday, sharing stories about her mother and keeping Elizabeth's memory alive. A year after Natalie's passing, Rebecca threw a party at her apartment to celebrate what would have been her birthday. Everyone from the church was there: Mrs. Jenkins, Ashley, and many others who had become important in her life. "You know," Rebecca said during the party, "my aunt always said family isn't just about blood, it's also about choice. Looking at all of you here today, I finally understand what she meant." Ashley, now 19 and fluent in Russian, raised a toast. "To Mrs. Johnson, who taught us it's never too late to find a family." "To Mrs. Johnson," everyone repeated, lifting their glasses. That night, alone in her apartment, Rebecca looked at the broken necklace, now keeping both halves together. She knew Natalie had fulfilled her mission, not just finding her niece, but creating a new family for her. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was an international number she didn't recognize. For a moment, her heart raced, remembering the first Russian calls that had changed her life. But this time, it was just a client from her company calling from abroad. Still, she smiled, because now she knew sometimes the phone could bring life's greatest surprises. And whenever an unknown number called, Rebecca answered with hope. She had learned life could change completely with one simple call. 2 years after Natalie's passing, Rebecca made an important decision. She decided to adopt Ashley, who had lost her mother in an accident and was living with a distant aunt who couldn't properly care for her. "Are you sure, Mrs. Johnson?" Ashley asked, emotional. "I am. You've been my family since the day you walked into my office to tell me about the phone." Mrs. Johnson would be happy. She would. She always said you were like a granddaughter to her. The adoption process was long but rewarding. When it was finally complete, Rebecca threw a big celebration with all their church friends and the people who had become important in their lives. "Now you're officially my daughter," Rebecca told Ashley at the party. "And you're officially my mum," Ashley replied, hugging her. "Your grandmother Natalie and great-grandmother Elizabeth would be so proud." "They are proud, I'm sure of it." That night, Rebecca wrote in her journal something she had never written before. "Today, my family is complete, a family that started with a warning not to answer the phone and became the greatest blessing of my life." 5 years later, Ashley was finishing her degree in literature with a focus on Russian. She had become a skilled interpreter and worked for an organization helping Russian immigrants adjust to life in the United States. "Mom, I have a surprise for you," Ashley said one afternoon. "What surprise?" "I tracked down some distant relatives of Grandma Natalie in Russia. They'd like to meet our family." Rebecca's heart skipped. "More relatives?" "Yes. Distant cousins who never gave up hope of finding the sisters who came to the United States. And they want to meet us?" "They do. And I was thinking, what if we planned a trip to Russia?" Rebecca thought for a moment. The idea was daunting but exciting. "Do you think we should? I think Grandma Natalie would want us to close this circle, to see where our family came from. Then let's go, let's find our roots." The trip to Russia happened the following summer. Rebecca and Ashley visited the city where Elizabeth and Natalie had been born, meeting distant cousins who kept old family photographs and stories. "It's amazing how people still remember them," Ashley remarked during the trip. "They touch so many lives, even from afar. Just like we've touched each other's lives." Exactly. On the last day of their visit, they went to the cemetery where Elizabeth and Natalie's parents were buried. "Hello, great-grandparents," Ashley said, placing flowers on the grave. "I came to introduce the granddaughter you gained in the United States." Rebecca also laid flowers and whispered a prayer in Russian that Natalie had taught her. "Thank you for raising such brave daughters. Thank you for bringing them to the United States. Thank you for helping me find my family." Back in the United States, Rebecca and Ashley organized an exhibition at St. Nicholas Orthodox Church with all the family's historical photos and documents. The exhibition told the story of Russian immigration to the United States through Elizabeth and Natalie's saga. "This is our way of making sure other families don't lose each other like ours did," Rebecca explained at the opening. And to show it's never too late to find the ones we love, Ashley added. The exhibition was a success, drawing many immigrant families with similar stories. Several people reconnected with long-lost relatives through the networks the event created. "You're helping reunite families," the church priest commented. "Mrs. Natalie would be so proud." "It's what she always wanted," Rebecca replied, "for no one else to suffer the pain of separation like she and my mother did." 10 years after that first phone call in Russian, Rebecca was in her office when the phone rang. It was an international number she didn't recognize. For a moment, her heart raced, remembering that first day when Ashley had told her not to answer. This time she picked up without hesitation. "Hello?" "Sorry to bother you," said a woman's voice in English with a Russian accent. "I'm looking for Rebecca Johnson." "That's me. My name is Samantha. I'm the granddaughter of your mother's cousin. I just discovered through the church exhibition that we have family in the United States." Rebecca smiled. History was repeating itself, but this time in a happier way. "Of course, Samantha, I'll give you my daughter Ashley's contact. She'll help you with everything." "Thank you. You should know your family is very famous in our part of Russia. Everyone talks about the brave sisters who came to the United States. They really were brave, and so are you, for keeping their story alive." After hanging up, Rebecca looked out her office window. She could almost feel Elizabeth and Natalie there with her, smiling and approving of everything that had been built. Ashley arrived at the office shortly after. "Mom, I just got an interesting call. A woman from Russia saying we're related." "I know. She called me first." So we'll welcome her with open arms, like we always do. Like Grandma Natalie taught us." Exactly. That evening, mother and daughter had dinner together, as they had every night for the past 10 years. The table was set for 2, but there were always 2 empty chairs, reserved for Elizabeth and Natalie. "Can you believe it all started with you telling me not to answer the phone?" Ashley said. "And look how far we've come," Rebecca replied. "A family, an exhibition, dozens of people reconnected with their roots." Grandma Natalie was right. Some things happen at just the right time. Not too soon, not too late. She was always right about family. And about love. She said true love always finds a way. Rebecca nodded, touching the locket she always wore around her neck. The heart that was once broken was now whole, symbolizing a family that had reunited against all odds. And so what began as a frightening warning about not answering the phone turned into the reconnection of an entire family, proving that some bonds withstand time, distance, and even the best-kept secrets. The end of the story. And what about you, dear listener? What did you think of this touching tale of family reunion? Do you believe fate helps the right people meet at the right time? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you have a similar story in your own family. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.